Hey guys, welcome to the very first episode of Two Dads, One Car. I can't think of a more perfect person to start off the very first episode, and it's none other than my cousin-in-law, Matt. Matt is a guy I absolutely look up to. He has two kids, two daughters. I think he's expecting a third one. He actually is. He is an all-around gentleman. He's the kind of guy you want to meet at a bar. He'd be like, "Hey, how's it going?" One of the biggest smiles. We're called twins, actually. We have some similar personalities, so we'll see what happens when he joins the car. All around fantastic, very career-driven, very personable, just an all-around gentleman. So I'm in his neighborhood. His house is just there. I'm going to send him a text, and we'll get started on the very first episode. All right, here we go. Get ready. Let's rock this. Long time no see.
Good seeing you.
Feel free to adjust the seats as you see fit. I've done the intro to you already, so maybe Matt, you could fill in the audience about maybe your background, maybe how many kids you have, and I think you have a third one coming. So
Yeah, which we haven't told told everyone yet, but
whoops.
That'll be a surprise. So 4.5-year-old, a 2.5-year-old, girls, both girls. Mila being the oldest, Michaela the second, and then we have a third on the way, a boy, due this December. So some call us crazy, but you know what? It's a lot of fun, planned. Because sometimes people are wondering, I can see it in their eyes, was the third an accident? No, you know what? Planned very much.
Is that often a question? Like, is the third one an accident?
It is actually, and honestly, I would actually speculate that a chunk of the time it probably is an accident. So let's dial it back.
Sure.
You know, your situation, you are becoming a dad for the very first time.
Yeah.
And super, super exciting. How do you feel?
I feel excited. I also feel like a little bit of fear inside, just because like everything that we do can influence the future. And I think about all my current pains and tribulations from my parents. So there's a bit of fear, but there's also like a bit of like, I guess, gratefulness, right? Because I know you and I know friends who've been trying for so long, and it just doesn't happen, right? So with that, like, it's a bit of a mixed emotion, but yeah, I'm pretty excited actually.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I think, honestly speaking, I mean, you know, you're going to have that mixed emotions, right? And when you see your baby for the first time, my gosh, like, you can't describe it. It is truly the happiest day of your life, you know? And up until this moment, you know, you could say that your wedding was the happiest day, you know, of your life. Maybe, you know, it was a great party.
That's true.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. But you know, this is an emotion. This is a feeling that really is super special, right? Like, it's super, super special.
That's amazing. I mean, does the feeling change, you know, when you have the second one coming out? Like, is it less exciting? Like, what goes on? You're like, oh yeah, I've seen this before.
You know what? That's a great question, and the truth is, it's honestly like just as good. It's honestly just as good, and the level of happiness that, or the level of, you know, excitement, the level of emotion, like it's off the charts. Like, it's really something that's very profound. You know, it's very profound, and you know, it's a moment that you'll never forget.
So I guess like really the premise of this kind of conversation is that I personally feel that there's a lot of material out there for moms and my women, but do dads really talk to each other? I guess, I mean, you and I are very sociable people, so I guess we do, but what's your sense on like that side? Like, are there some like unspoken truths that, you know, dads don't really say, and really what's your feel on that? I'd be curious.
Yeah, you know, to take a step back for a second, you know, the prenatal classes you go, and they throw all this information at you, and honestly, I think 90% of dads would agree with me that probably 3/4 of the content doesn't stick. Like, you don't even remember, you know, like, you don't even remember, and you try to take a couple nuggets away, and I mean, really, that should be the goal, I think, if you decide to go and you know, participate in those prenatal classes. You know, for us, I mean, I think it's interesting. Like, I think that as dads, we, you know, sorry, you have to repeat the question again.
Oh, just like, do dads really, like, I feel like there's some unspoken things that
Yeah.
dads don't really share. And you
Yeah.
see a lot from mothers, and you hear those stories, but like, what are, like, is that true that there's some unspoken things that dads don't talk about?
Yeah, and similar
keep
to
it
me
tight.
just asking you about the question, I mean, oftentimes we forget about things because that memory consolidation. So interrupted sleep is actually one of those things where, like, it's crazy, man. Like, if you were to get, let's say, 6 hours of sleep, okay, overnight. Now, the difference though with a kid versus not is that with a kid, it might be continually interrupted. So, one of the things that probably shocked me was that, okay, so you might be able to still get 8 hours of sleep, with a newborn, but in that first 2 weeks, up to probably 4 weeks, although it does get better by 4 weeks, a little bit, is that they're constantly up, every 45 minutes to about an hour and a half, okay? And the problem with that is that once they're up for a good probably half an hour to an hour. So collectively or cumulatively, you might get 8 hours, but it's like interrupted, and that kind of sleep sucks. And so from a memory consolidation standpoint, it's so easy to forget things, and so unspoken truths, I would just say that dads don't often share a lot of the details. They don't share a lot of the ins and outs, like it's almost like it's almost a bit of the, it's kind of the, not a bro code, it's a dad code, like where we tough it out. We're really there to support our spouses, our partners, and what they need, because they've just been through a lot. And there isn't really that chance, to decompress or, share with other dads kind of what's going on.
I want to dig into this because this is amazing. By the way, this is already like, oh my gosh, learning a ton. But just building on that, how about relationships, right? There must be some kind of strain on the relationship, and caveat, his wife is actually my cousin. That's okay, Amy. He's good. But like, pretend Amy's not listening to this. Like, there must be like something that affects that relationship with your spouse. And does that happen? And how did you, what happens behind the scenes?
Something, and being very upfront here, once a woman gives birth, you're not having sex for at least, I don't know, let's say 6 months.
Wow.
like
I'm learning stuff here.
You're basically also in like survival mode, like I think for both of you, because in essence, I mean, the ultimate goal of the child, keep the child alive, right? Like keep the child alive. And most people don't have a playbook, you'll figure it out, and that was probably the best advice that my late mom gave me, when I had said, down the road one day, when I become a dad, what's the advice that you would have? And she said, you turned out great. And like she basically said, we had no idea what we were doing, and you turned out great. You're gonna figure it out, and that is the one thing. If anything you take away from this, you're gonna figure it out. People will have different ways of doing things and different advice for you, but you're gonna figure it out. Now, back to your question about relationships. Gosh, the whole process does actually bring you closer together, as a family unit. And I do think, like, innately, there are some things that just, come out, and, honestly, positive things. And the relationship Ames and I have, as well as, this family unit concept, we're both fairly like strong people. I know for some people will struggle, right? Like some people will struggle. I mean, postpartum is very, very real, right? It can also affect dads. I thankfully, have not experienced that, but I do know a few who have. And for dads, it's often not talked about. But obviously, moms, it does affect them more. And, we really, really need to be prepared to support and be prepared to step up. But from a relationship standpoint, overall, at least in my case, in my experience, it did bring us closer together. And now it's almost that team mentality, because it's like, this is our family unit. It's the team, kind of like, we're learning together, we're encouraging each other together. It was honestly just something that, again, is truly special, that you I don't want to say face adversity, but there are new challenges and you learn how to persevere.
Wow. This is a very, thank you for sharing that. It's a very natural break for us to grab a coffee, but just to reminisce on these topics. But we'll do a coffee break. We'll continue on to our next question, because this has been stellar so far. And so we're going to get coffee, because why not? What do you want, Matt? It's on me.
Just get me a medium coffee.
All right, got it. We're at McDonald's right now. Hi, can I get 2 medium black coffees, please? Yeah. Okay, awesome. Awesome. Coffee break.
Yeah. Black coffees. True lawyer right here.
Oh, sorry. Did you want black coffee?
No, I'm good. I can take it.
Oh, did you want? Oh, shoot.
No, I'm good.
I just assumed it was black coffee. All right, now that we got our coffees, let's go to part 2 or part 3, whatever the questions are. There's really no themes to this. You touched on something really emotional earlier, and you talked about your late mother, sharing that advice. My question is really more on, do you find that your childhood affects the way you parent? And what was your childhood like? And do you find does that happen?
Ooh, deep. I like it. For
black coffee.
A Friday morning. Yeah. You know what? I do believe, I think that, the whole nature nurture, right? Yes, there are aspects that will influence how you decide to parent. And so I say that because, my parents, they were always like, oh, you should be a doctor, you should, be a professional, you gotta do these things. And I've always thought to myself, well, no, with my kids, I would probably encourage them to pursue their passion, right? And it wouldn't necessarily be, oh, you gotta be, like good Asian parents, you gotta be a doctor, you gotta be a lawyer, you gotta be an accountant, And there are certain things. Now, with a newborn, no, with a newborn, it's all about survival. It's all about survival. And so, that love, that attention, that gosh, honestly, you're just looking at sometimes just hour to hour, let alone day to day or year to year. You're just trying to get through, the night. So, anyways, yes, I think that parents, my own parents, do have an influence, and arguably, they are the biggest influence in your life, right? They have been, a huge influence, and so it does play a part.
And when you talked about your late mother, I don't need to dive super deep into this one, but when you asked her about advice, was there any other advice that she gave you when it came to parenting? Because what you said earlier was absolutely magical. Was there more that she shared, or you kind of think about, during this time?
Yeah, I mean, that was the main advice. She was religious, so she had said, there's some good truths in the Bible. I would just say in generalities, just having experienced a mother's love for their child is honestly, second to none. There's nothing that comes close. I remember she once asked me, about Eve's and the family, right? Eve's brothers, Raymond and Richard, and they have the parents, and she said, you'll probably end up with this one, and or
so they're still dating, eh?
Yeah, back then, and I mean, sure enough, yes, sure enough, that came true. But she did ask me one time, she had terminal cancer, and she had said, she kind of broke down and she was like, like, yeah, like, are they going to take care of you? Like, are they good people? Like, are they going to love you? And in regards to her parents, right? Like her parents, and I said yes, absolutely. And she broke down crying, and she was saying how, like there is no one that will love you as much as like your own mother, right? Like your own blood mother, and absolutely. Like I think there are things that still, I've learned and she's taught, and even just her style, right? Like with bringing me up, like these things that are almost unspoken, but just things that she's been able to impart on me and absolutely influence how I will raise my kids and her grandchildren.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that, Matt. I as I'm reflecting on what you're saying as well, as you may know, my dad is recently going through cancer, and it's interesting. I saw him in June in Toronto, and the whole time he was just like knowledge dumping. Like it's as if it's like his last few months, which he's actually doing really well right now. But like
Good.
It was very much like really like every single day was like an episode where he just shares a story about something, and he's like, you know what, son, like some of this will stick, some of this will not, but it was just an interesting perspective, right? As we age, there's different chapters in life, and part of this is I guess one thing, children bring another sense of happiness or another sense to those who, like your father, he must be thrilled, right, when Michaela and Mila first appeared.
Yeah, you know what? One kind of perspective, for you, it is cycle of life, right? Like the older generation will go. I mean, we all, have our time, right? Like, and then the older generation will start to go, but the younger generation, begins, right? Like they're coming into this world, and while some people are leaving this world, you have to keep it in perspective. I once, my uncle, after my mom had passed, once said, like this decade has been tough. I lost, my wife, like is like my aunt. So he had lost his wife. He had lost his sister, my mom. He had lost his mom, my grandma, and he had lost the brother, and my uncle. And when I said, yeah, but Uncle Peter, I was like, but you gained like 4 grandchildren. Like yes, we lost these people, but we will always remember them. But you've gained these grandchildren, and I mean the thing with kids is that like they are like it's a blank, like honestly the world is a blank canvas, and they can honestly our hope and desire is that they turn out incredible, like they turn out well and successful, but yeah, like it's the world is just a blank canvas to them, and they have so much potential and so much opportunity out there. So it's an exciting time for them, and us as parents. It's about really stewarding and bringing them up and taking care of them and doing what we can, and being there for them and supporting and all that, and loving them, like truly loving them is something that it just, your actions often can show love, but I think vocalizing it and expressing it, it's one of the greatest gifts, and it doesn't cost us anything.
Yeah, Matt, you are such a not COVID. I have had my 2 shots. Matt, you're such a, I don't know if I said this to you before, you're a very eloquent speaker, and I could see why you do so well in your job, and that's kind of where I want to pivot into next. But I really do mean that compliment, because you have a way of just capturing the essence of the story and selling the meat. You're not really selling it to me, right? I already have a kid, but I'm just saying that it's just say it so well. I want to shift into this next topic, and really on the career side.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, you're an incredibly successful guy. Like you're rocking it in your world at UBC. Let's talk about family and career. There is the sense that it's one or the other. You seem to be doing so well on this. Like, what are, tell us the ways.
Thank you. First off, thank you for your very kind words. it's interesting. I mean, you look at some of the most successful people, right? Like in their, the Bill Gates or the Jeff Bezos, like Elon Musk. I almost guarantee you they probably don't sleep, 8 hours a night.
Yeah.
like sleep, and I don't need to tell you this, Stephen. You know, sleep is something that sometimes you cut a bit of. With kids, I mean, I'll be honest. Like I average probably. I mean, now that they're a little older, I mean, I'm averaging, let's say, 5.5 to 7 hours, okay, like every night, and that's just the way it is. And I can't stay up as late as before. What has happened is that Ames is more of the. I mean, she works the evening shift at the hospital, right? So she ends up sleeping. Like basically, she'll sleep in a little bit, and then I'll try and get breakfast going for the kids and whatnot. Now, this balance is one that, you will find, people will strive for, and you'll get there. You're going to find the balance that works for you. I think that with different people, there are different priorities, right? And so if you prioritize, like, you got to get your morning workout in, or you got to get your morning run in, or some people might prioritize a morning, I got to get my morning language class in, right? Like, or tennis, So there's going to be different priorities, but you will find a way to prioritize that family time and your kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so, am I going to be here and say, well, yeah, no, I'm at every dinner with my kids? The truth is, no. Like, I'm not going to be at every dinner, with my family. But you will find that balance, and it'll differ from person to person, and you can still have a career. I shout out to all the moms who take, the 12, maybe even 18 months off, and are amazing, like just career driven and, rise to the very top. And even those that don't, like shout out for basically this pause where they go and really focus on family and focus on their child, and as a dad, I mean, it's interesting, like, if we were to take that parental leave, it's often, I mean, in the past, has been like frowned upon, but even with this one, coming up for me, like I'm going to be taking 2 months off, and
Good on you.
yeah, like I think it's something that is important, like for the family, and just to go back to your question, like with career, there is a way to find that balance and work hard, and even in today's world where you can do a lot, from home, like the remote work from home, do I pop on, after the kids go to sleep? Yeah, like it is something that I may do, but it's not something that I do all the time, right? Like, so, it's not like, 7 nights a week I'm hopping on. So you'll find that balance, and it'll be good.
And I want to glean from your response, right? There is that element of intention, right? Having that intention and just being intentional about the balance, being intentional about the time. I was reading a book recently, and I was talking about transition time, right? Because anytime you move into your next phase of life, there is going to be a time when you kind of readjust. Whether you move into with the spouse, whether you guys like move to a new city, and even this next phase, there must be a transition time, right? And with your third coming, there must be that period of transition as well. I'm trying to figure out scheduling. And what I gleaned from your response is that there is that element of intention. Really, I don't know if I shared this. Like for me, I really admire those who, for me, success is a different response, different meaning, right? And success for me means not just with career, but also with family and health. And I'm trying to find that three-way balance to the extent that exists. But that's what I admire in people, and that's the purpose really of this podcast here. Really building on this next question I had was, what are the myths out there about parenting?
Go this way.
Sure, we'll go this way. What are the myths about parenting, or like what are some the biggest myths that you thought were true, and then you came back like, this is not true at all?
Yeah, no, great question. And thank you for that. And just before I start there,
Please.
intention, and purposeful with your time.
Yeah.
And sometimes if that intention is, I need some downtime. I need an hour to just, watch something on Netflix. That's fine. Like that's fine. But intentional with your time is absolutely key. So you touched on it, you called it out, and that's fantastic. So what are the myths? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Especially with the first, let me tell you this. You think that, I'll tell you, a lot of new parents might think that, okay, my social life is over. I can't go to the movies. I can't go, I can't go out for dinner. Like I'm going to be home. Not at all. Okay, not at all. Like I'll tell you, the first, the first month is a bit blurry. It's a bit fuzzy. I mean, sometimes Asian parents say, don't leave the house. Months 2, months 3, months 4, arguably up to, let's say month 5, 6. Gosh, as long as the kid can be in a car seat, you can still go out for dinners. Like take the kid with you. They're sleeping half the time. I mean, these kids, the one thing is that, they sleep. I can't remember what it is. Like when they first, in the first couple of months of their life, like gosh, like it's like what, 16, 18 hours.
Holy smokes!
They're sleeping all the time. Can you go have a nice dinner? Absolutely, go have a nice dinner. Are you going to go out for a nice dinner every day? Well, no, you're not going to go out for a nice dinner every day. But if you want to go out, like once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, even. I mean, you can figure it out. So from a myth perspective, there are those elements. Traveling, some people are like, well, can we travel?
Yeah.
You can absolutely travel, okay? I'll give you an example. Hawaii, like, couples without kids, you kind of dread the, having the baby in the row behind you because they'll be crying the whole time.
That's right.
But I'll tell you, there are certain destinations, Hawaii, Disneyland included, where the plane is honestly full of crying kids anyways. So you just embrace it. You sit in the back of the plane. It's one of those things where if you're booking your seat, you're kind of like, okay, I'm going to sit in the back with all the other like crying kids.
Yeah.
And somehow miraculously it all kind of works out, and the kids don't all trigger each other and cry. And, you might sweat the first time you go, but honestly, after that, it's not too bad. Like traveling isn't as bad. Now that said, you actually do end up sweating. I know you and I sweat easily.
Yeah.
Every single time. And the reason being is because there's way more luggage now. There's way more things that you need to pack, which is not a myth. There is a lot of things that you got to pack. There is a lot of things that you got to pack. So the stroller, if you decide, if you want to do a car seat, if you want to do all this extra like diapers, or what we typically do would buy diapers. You go to Hawaii, you just buy diapers there. From Walmart or something. So anyways, from a myth perspective, those are the big ones that stand out.
Do you have any like dreams and aspirations for how you want your daughters and kids to turn out? Or is that just like, I'm just going to go with the flow and see what happens? Or like, is there something that you kind of discuss with my cousin about this, not Michelle, but my wife's been asking me about this as well. That's why she came to mind. That's why the question came up.
I think so. But that said, they're too young. They're not quite at the point where you would have an intelligent conversation.
They're 4 and 2.
Yeah. You're not going to be like, oh, like you want to be a doctor? You're playing play doctor, pretend doctor? Yes, you should be a doctor. You know what? Like accountant, like they wouldn't even understand what an accountant is. And Mila jokingly has started saying like, I want to be a pharmacist, which is hilarious. Guaranteed she doesn't know what a pharmacist is, right? So
our cousin's a pharmacist.
yeah. So let's see. I would just say that as parents, you dream for your kids. At the end of the day, you want what's best for them, and you want them to be happy. And success is something that, again, we have decided we will let them decide how to define that, right? And similarly, like with happiness, I think that like you just want to give them all the opportunities that you can. That there is a fine balance between pushing them and encouraging them, right? And then I think happiness is just something that we just want them to be happy at the end of the day, like, so whatever that may entail, for them.
It's so different how our childhoods are. I'm guessing like when our parents were raising us, it must be a little different, right? I don't even know. I should ask my dad about this and get his thoughts. I do have one final question just to round out the recording. But before I do, I really appreciate this time to kind of chat through and get your insight. And I have one more question for you, and I'll give you an opportunity to say anything else you had. But my question to you is that, what is something that you really wish you knew right before your first daughter arrived? Or if you had to say something to yourself, what would that be?
Whew. As simple as that question is, as often as that question is, I mean, it's still a very, very tough question. Honestly, I mean, I think we were fortunate. I mean, we got all like the traveling in. Like it's different, like it's different now where when we travel, it's hard to. It's just certain destinations can be more challenging, right? And so I would just say, like, just make sure you honestly, like, if you want to go to a movie, you decide on a whim. You're like, you know what? I want to go to a movie tonight. Go and do that. Go and do that before kids. And the reason being, you can still do it with kids, but it's harder because there's just an element of responsibility where you need to. Okay, well, who's going to watch the kid? Like, we can't just leave the house and like leave the kids sleeping. Yeah, like see you later, right? Like so. What I would just counsel, or what I would say, like, there is that, look, all parents, for the most part, you don't know what you're getting into, but you'll figure it out. And, really the advice I would have is just before, the kids come, or what I wish I had known, would just be like, go. Like, if on a whim, you're like, you know what? I want to do a Whistler day trip.
Yeah.
Go. Like, just go. Go and do it. If you're like, I feel like playing golf today, go play golf. You can do it. And I mean, talk to Michelle first, right? But if you're like, I want to bike, around the seawall, just go for a ride, or I want to ride up to, Horseshoe Bay, or maybe that's the lane level.
Yeah, that's Ironman.
Your Ironman cousin. But honestly, like, that's the one thing where I would say, okay, like, if you feel like doing it, you feel like, just something on a whim, something, that's not planned, you can still do, like, things, once the kid comes, but it's like, you can surprise, you can go, okay, we're going to do a staycation, this weekend. But, I mean, it's different, right? Like, it's different. So, yeah, that'd be it. This has been great. This has been great, by the way.
Thank you. And can I ask a bonus question?
Yeah, let's do it.
My bonus question is, this is not less of a question, but my dream is that, down the future, the Kayla and Mila will listen to this podcast. Maybe not. It'll be like another like dad podcast thing. But to the extent, by chance, they listen to it, what is something that you want to say to them?
Oh my gosh. One day, like, like mom and dad won't be here, right? But you're going to have each other, and a brother. And, you all have to take care of yourself, right? Like family, like, love each other, take care of one another, and support each other. And really, that's what I would say.
Beautiful. Well, welcome and thank you for listening and joining in on this very first episode. You are absolutely the ideal guest, someone that I would love to kick off this series with. I learned a ton from this, and I'm still reflecting as I'm driving at the same time. But it's been a ton of fun, and thank you, Matt, for being on the show today.
You're welcome. Most welcome. And excited for you. Truly, truly excited. It's going to be great.
Yep. There's some hesitation for sure, but that's because I said it earlier, a mix of excitement, some fear, and gratitude at the same time. So thank you for listening. We might have an Instagram page, I don't know, but subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Google Play, and share it out to your friends, man, when this comes out.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Bye.